Mention the American Revolution, and one phrase echoes above the rest: "Give me liberty or give me death." The man who shouted it, Patrick Henry, is fixed in the public imagination as the quintessential firebrand of 1776. Jump forward a little over a decade, and his actions suggest a different man. When delegates gathered to draft the United States Constitution, Henry boycotted the convention. He explicitly stated that he smelled a rat and fought aggressively to destroy the proposed government. It raises a difficult question. How did a primary architect of American independence become the greatest threat to its unification? Henry's career was built on a single unyielding conviction: that centralized authority is a threat to liberty, no matter whose name is on the letterhead. In 1763, Henry was 27 years old. He was a failed planter and an unsuccessful store owner who had recently taught himself enough law to pass the bar exam. Here at the Hanover courthouse, he took on a wage dispute known as the Parsons Cause. Virginia had passed a local law limiting the salaries of Anglican ministers to help citizens survive a severe tobacco shortage. In response, the King of England vetoed the law, paving the way for the clergy to sue their parishes for back pay. Facing seasoned attorneys, Henry ignored the dry, technical details of contract law entirely. He turned his focus directly to the jury, using theatrical, emotional appeals to tap into their local pride. He argued that by vetoing a law passed for the welfare of the local people, the king had abandoned his duty and degenerated into a tyrant. Because of this, the colonists owed the crown no obedience. The jury was entirely convinced by the argument. They awarded the suing minister exactly 1 penny in damages. A young lawyer from the backcountry had proven a dangerous concept. The right words, delivered with enough emotional force, could empower everyday citizens to successfully defy the decrees of a remote monarch. 12 years later, inside St. John's Church in Richmond, Henry scaled up those courtroom tactics to address a continent-wide crisis. British military forces were massing in the colonies to enforce royal authority. Henry deployed a specific rhetorical trap called a false dichotomy. He reduced a highly complex geopolitical standoff into an illusion of exactly 2 options. He told the wealthy, cautious delegates that their only choices were freedom or immediate slavery. He demanded they arm the Virginia militia, backing them into a corner that required armed rebellion. Well before George Washington took command of the Continental Army, Henry's rhetoric had operated as a weapon, breaking the psychological grip of the British Empire. After the war, the independent states operated as a loose alliance under the Articles of Confederation. Each state handled its own affairs, but political leaders in the North were heavily advocating for a tighter, centralized government. Look at this early map. In 1786, John Jay negotiated with Spain concerning control of the Mississippi River. He proposed a treaty surrendering American rights to navigate the lower Mississippi for 30 years, in exchange for trade deals exclusively benefiting northern merchants. Henry was furious. Closing the river meant severing the primary trade route for southern farmers, essentially suffocating the agricultural economy of his home state to enrich the North. A distant political body was attempting to dictate the economic survival of local communities. To Henry, the politicians in Philadelphia were acting exactly like the Parliament in London. His distrust of a federal government was now absolute. This painting depicts the 1787 Constitutional Convention, where delegates gathered to draft a new framework for the nation. Henry refused to attend. When he read the proposed Constitution, he saw a terrifying consolidation of power. He was particularly alarmed by the creation of the executive branch. To Henry, placing a president at the head of a permanent standing army looked suspiciously like a king waiting for a crown. The debate reached its climax at the 1788 Virginia Ratifying Convention. It became a direct rhetorical duel between Henry and the primary author of the Constitution, James Madison. Henry hammered the document's flaws. He pointed out that it granted the federal government sweeping abilities to tax and raise armies, but contained 0 explicit checks protecting the rights of individual citizens. This clash laid bare a defining American tension: the push for an efficient, unified national government colliding head-on with the fear of losing local independence. The Virginia Convention ultimately voted to ratify the Constitution by a narrow margin of 89 to 79. Henry lost the vote. But his attacks were so persuasive that they nearly derailed the entire national project. To secure the final votes, Madison was forced to make a massive concession. Madison promised that the very first session of Congress would draft the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, specifically to restrict the new government's power. Henry operated as the vital, skeptical counterweight to the ambitions of the other founders. He forced them to put their promises in writing. Today, the rights to free speech, a fair trial, and protection from unreasonable search exist because Patrick Henry refused to blindly trust the United States government.